What if I told you that, in 2026, you could clear security, grab a coffee, scan your boarding pass with a smile, and still be quietly stopped just steps before the aircraft door without anyone announcing your name? Would you even know why it happened? That's the uncomfortable question more travelers are asking this year, because flying in 2026 feels different, sharper, more watchful, almost invisible in the way decisions are being made before you ever touch the plane. And if you're over 50, retired, semi-retired, or finally traveling more like so many of us in the golden age travel tips community, this is something you absolutely need to understand. The biggest shift isn't longer lines or stricter baggage rules, it's the new boarding gate screening culture that blends technology, behavior tracking, and airline risk scoring into one final checkpoint that didn't even exist in this form a few years ago. And it's happening at major hubs first. Think Transportation Security Administration collaborating more closely with airlines, data flowing through systems tied to U.S. Customs and Border Protection for international routes, and global carriers like Delta Airlines, American Airlines, and United Airlines layering their own internal risk indicators on top of government screening. And no, this isn't some dramatic conspiracy theory. It's a quiet operational evolution that most passengers never notice because it's designed to feel normal, seamless, polite. Here's what's changed. Boarding gates now act as micro-security zones, not just document check desks, meaning agents are trained to observe micro-behaviors, hesitation patterns, unusual route changes inside the terminal, repeated gate switching without clear reason, even last-minute seat change requests combined with certain travel data, flags. And while that sounds intense, it's less about catching bad people and more about preventing disruptions before doors close. Because airlines in 2026 are obsessed with on-time departures and zero in-flight incidents, especially after the wave of unruly passenger headlines earlier in the decade. Imagine this scenario and tell me if it sounds familiar. You arrive early. Everything's smooth, but you're nervous about overhead bin space. So you hover near the boarding lane before your group is called. You check your phone constantly. You step forward, then back, then forward again. Maybe you ask the agent if your carry-on will fit because you've got medication inside and you don't want it gate checked. Completely reasonable, right? Yes, totally, but combined with other small signals in a digital profile, that cluster of behaviors can trigger a quiet secondary verification, which might look like, "Sir, can I quickly rescan your ID?" Or, "Ma'am, we just need to confirm something on your reservation." And suddenly, you're pulled to the side, not accused, not embarrassed, just paused, short pause, long silence. Everyone else boards. That moment feels huge. Now, let's talk about what's feeding those decisions. Because it's not random, airlines now cross-reference check-in timing, payment method anomalies, one-way international bookings, last-minute ticket purchases, prior incident notes, even minor ones like verbal disagreements at gates, and something newer: behavioral continuity. Tracking inside the airport through camera analytics that detect erratic pacing or repeated restricted area approaches. And before you panic, this is not about reading your thoughts. It's pattern recognition software that flags outliers compared to average passenger flow. And most of the time, it leads to nothing more than a polite clarification. But in some cases, passengers are removed before boarding if the system decides risk outweighs convenience. Removed before the plane. And here's the part nobody explains well online. Removal in 2026 often doesn't mean you did something wrong. It can mean your data profile requires manual review that can't be completed before departure time. And airlines would rather rebook you than delay 180 other people, which sounds cold, but operationally it makes sense. I spoke with a retired couple, let's call them. Jim and Larohu were flying to visit grandchildren. Simple domestic route. And at the gate, an agent asked them to step aside because their return ticket showed a different middle initial than their ID. Tiny typo, but combined with a same-day booking change and a flagged payment retry earlier that morning, the system wanted confirmation. And while it was sorted eventually, they missed boarding group 1 and felt shaken, not because anyone was rude, but because they had no idea these microchecks even existed. This is why awareness matters, especially for older travelers who didn't grow up with algorithmic profiling shaping everyday experiences. Because in 2026, your travel identity is a living file, updated in real time. Let's break down the biggest new boarding checks you should know. and I'm keeping this practical, not dramatic. First, identity consistency scanning, which goes beyond matching name and birthday and looks at travel history, alignment. If you suddenly book a route completely outside your historical pattern with a high-risk timing window, you might get a soft flag. Second, carry-on content declarations for certain international routes. Now trigger automated questions at the gate if you declared medical devices or specialty batteries, especially lithium-based mobility aids. And while this protects safety, incomplete documentation can stall boarding. Third, alcohol behavior observation is stricter than ever. Gate agents receive live updates from airport vendors in some hubs. If a passenger was denied service due to intoxication concerns, meaning your pre-flight margarita might follow you digitally to the aircraft door. Fourth, seat reassignment scrutiny. Frequent last-minute swaps, especially into exit Rosecan trigger manual confirmation of physical capability, which matters for seniors who may qualify but haven't updated profiles properly. Fifth, companion verification checks, particularly when one passenger requires wheelchair assistance and the other attempts priority. Boarding without proper linkage in the booking, a mismatch that sometimes leads to boarding delays. And here's where tone shifts a bit, because I don't want this to sound scary. It's not about targeting older travelers, it's about predictability. Airlines love predictable behavior, and anything outside baseline gets attention. So the smartest strategy in 2026 is simple: reduce anomalies. That means double-checking your booking name matches your government ID exactly, avoiding unnecessary gate crowding, limiting dramatic last-minute changes unless truly needed, and staying visibly calm during boarding. Yes, that sounds almost silly, but body language matters more now than 5 years ago. Short breaths, slow movements, confident posture. It helps. Now let's address something. Viewers always ask me, can they really remove you without explaining? Legally, airlines maintain broad discretion to deny boarding for safety or operational reasons, and explanations may be minimal to protect internal security protocols. But you are usually rebooked unless there's a serious compliance issue, and in most cases it's procedural, not punitive. Another overlooked factor in 2026 is biometric verification expansion. Facial recognition at select gates compares live scans to passport or ID databases, and if lighting, aging photos, or glasses create mismatches, secondary checks occur, which disproportionately surprises older adults whose ID photos may be decades old. So updating travel documents before major trips is now more important than ever. And yes, some of this integrates with global systems beyond the US, especially for international departures where advanced passenger information is pre-screened before you even leave home. Here's a quick story to ground this. A 67-year-old solo traveler heading to Europe booked through a third-party site. Her ticket auto-generated a shortened first name, not matching her passport exactly. Security didn't catch it because boarding pass scanned fine, but the gate algorithm flagged identity variants tied to international compliance rules. She was gently pulled aside, corrected, but the emotional stress nearly made her cancel the trip altogether. And that breaks my heart, because travel in your golden years should feel empowering, not intimidating. So why aren't more channels talking about this nuance? Because it's subtle, it doesn't make flashy headlines. It's operational, and honestly, airlines don't advertise their layered screening logic. They frame it as enhanced customer experience, which in fairness includes smoother flows for most passengers. And here's the twist. These systems also help reduce random secondary screenings for people who consistently travel with clean, stable profiles, meaning if you keep your travel habits consistent, boarding can feel almost effortless. Consistency is the new VIP. But let's not ignore potential downsides. Data errors happen, names get misspelled, assistance requests get miscategorized, and once a digital flag exists, clearing it sometimes requires proactive communication with the airline before your next trip. So if you've ever had a boarding interruption, I strongly recommend contacting the carrier afterward to ensure notes are accurate. Do not just assume it vanished. Now, I want to shift tone again because fear doesn't serve us, preparation does. If you're part of the Golden Age Travel Tips family, you travel smarter, not louder. And in 2026, that means arriving early, but not hovering aggressively at the gate. Scanning your boarding pass only when your group is called, keeping documents easily accessible, limiting visible frustration if delays occur, and politely asking questions instead of demanding answers. Small difference, big impact. And here's something almost no one mentions. Airlines monitor social media posts tagged at gates in real time in some major airports, especially if they include threats, jokes about security, or aggressive language. Even sarcastic comments can escalate reviews. So think twice before posting "Hope this plane actually makes it" lol while boarding. Tone matters online too. I know this sounds like a lot, but remember, millions fly daily without issue. And these checks are about edge cases, not everyday retirees heading to see grandkids. Still, awareness keeps you in control. Let me give you a rapid-fire list of behaviors to avoid at boarding in 2026. Blocking the lane before your zone is called. Arguing about bin space loudly. Filming gate agents without consent during disputes. Switching seats repeatedly on the app minutes before boarding. Separating from your travel companion during final call. Presenting an expired ID hoping it still works. Joking about prohibited items even harmlessly. And ignoring announcements because you're on a call. Each alone might be harmless. Together, they create friction. And friction in 2026 equals review. Now, are these systems perfect? Absolutely not. And there are ongoing debates about privacy and algorithm bias. But until policies shift, adapting is wiser than resisting. And here's the empowering truth. Most removals before the plane are preventable through simple clarity and calm consistency. Travel is still beautiful, still freeing, still one of the greatest joys in your golden years. You just have to understand the invisible layer shaping it now. So before your next 2026 flight, pause and ask yourself, is every detail of my booking accurate? Is my ID updated? Am I arriving composed? Am I minimizing last-minute surprises? Because the gate is no longer just a doorway, it's the final filter. And if you found this eye-opening, here's my personal suggestion. Create a small pre-flight checklist card in your wallet with 5 reminders. Name, match confirmed. ID current. Boarding group, respected.com posture, no unnecessary changes. It sounds simple, maybe even old school, but simple habits beat complex systems every single time. And that's how you make sure your journey begins in your seat, not on the sidelines watching the aircraft door close without you.